When Zora Jenkins served a quiet customer in a hoodie at the Golden Spoon Diner, she had no idea he was NBA superstar Stephen Curry. After her boss fired her for neglecting other customers to serve the celebrity, Zora left in tears, wondering how she'd support her 8-year-old daughter as a single mom. The very next day, she woke to find herself on the local news, her story going viral. But that was just the beginning. A mysterious phone call would soon change everything, launching Zora on an unexpected journey from unemployed waitress to something she never imagined possible. Sometimes losing everything is just the first step to gaining something better. Zora Jenkins sprinted through the rain, her worn sneakers splashing through puddles as she raced toward the Golden Spoon Diner. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Late again. Mr. Walton was going to be furious. "Please don't fire me," she whispered to herself, checking her watch. 10 minutes late. Not the end of the world, but her third time this month. It wasn't her fault. Her regular babysitter, Mrs. Collins, had called with a sudden stomach bug just as Zora was heading out the door. She'd had to rush Lily to her neighbor's apartment and beg her to watch her daughter for the day. "I've got a test tonight," Zora had explained to her sleepy 8-year-old, smoothing Lily's curly hair. "I'll pick you up right after my shift, and we'll do something fun this weekend, okay?" Lily had nodded bravely, clutching her stuffed elephant. "It's okay, Mom. I know you have to work." Those words squeezed Zora's heart every time. At 28, she was working 2 jobs while taking online nursing classes. Lily deserved better than a mom who was always rushing out the door. The neon sign of the Golden Spoon glowed through the morning drizzle. Zora took a deep breath and pushed through the door, the little bell announcing her arrival. Mr. Walton looked up from behind the counter, his bushy eyebrows drawing together in a scowl. "Jenkins, my office, after you clock in." Zora nodded, hanging her dripping jacket on the rack and hurrying to the back. She clocked in, tied a clean apron around her waist, and checked her appearance in the small mirror by the lockers. Her dark, brown skin looked tired under the harsh fluorescent lights, and she wished she'd had time for more than a quick ponytail. But her uniform was clean and pressed. She always made sure of that. Her co-worker Tanya slid past with a tray of pancakes. "Girl, he's in a mood today," she whispered. "And guess what? That mean food critic from the newspaper is at table 7. "Are you serious? Jared Phillips is here? Today of all days?" Zora groaned. Phillips was known for harsh reviews that could make or break small restaurants. "Yep, and he's in your section," Tanya said with a grimace. Zora squared her shoulders. "I'll be fine. Just need to get through Mr. Walton first." She knocked on his office door, and he barked, "Enter!" Frank Walton sat behind a cluttered desk, his white button-up shirt straining slightly over his round belly. He'd owned the Golden Spoon for 20 years and ran it with an iron fist. "Jenkins, this is the 3rd time this month," he said without looking up from his paperwork. "I know, sir. My babysitter canceled last minute. It won't happen again." "That's what you said last time." He finally looked up, his expression stern. "One more strike, and you're out. Understand? I've got a business to run." "Yes, sir." "Thank you. You, sir?" Zora backed out of the office, relief washing over her. She still had her job, for now. The diner was packed with the breakfast crowd. The smell of bacon, coffee, and maple syrup filled the air as Zora grabbed her notepad and headed to her section. She pasted on her brightest smile as she approached table 7. "Good morning, sir. Welcome to the Golden Spoon. Can I start you with some coffee?" Jared Phillips looked up from his phone with cold eyes. He was a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a perpetual frown. "I ordered 5 minutes ago," he said, "from the other waitress." "I'm I'm so sorry about that. Let me check on your order right away, Zora said, maintaining her smile even as her stomach dropped. The kitchen was chaotic, with the short-order cook, Miguel, juggling multiple orders. Miguel, did you get an order from table 7? The food critic just came in, Miguel said, flipping pancakes with expert precision. Eggs over easy, wheat toast, side of bacon. It's next. Thanks, I'll let him know. For the next hour, Zora raced between tables, filling coffee cups, taking orders, and delivering hot plates of food. Every few minutes, she checked on Phillips, making sure his coffee stayed full and his food was perfect. At 10:45, Tanya approached her near the drink station. Zora, I'm slammed. Can you take that booth in the corner for me? A guy just sat down. Zora glanced at her own full section, including the food critic who was now picking at his eggs with a dissatisfied expression. I don't know. Please? My twins were up all night with colds, and I'm dead on my feet. Looking at Tanya's exhausted face, Zora nodded. Sure, I'll take him. The man in the corner booth wore a gray hoodie pulled low over his forehead and dark sunglasses despite being indoors. Tall, with broad shoulders, he sat with his back to the wall. Something about him seemed oddly familiar. Good morning. Welcome to the Golden Spoon, Zora greeted him warmly. What can I get for you today? He looked up, and, though she couldn't see his eyes behind the sunglasses, his smile was friendly. Just coffee to start, please, and maybe some suggestions. I'm starving. Our blueberry pancakes are amazing, Zora said, and Miguel makes the best Denver omelet in town. Sounds perfect. I'll take both. Zora raised her eyebrows. Both? That's a lot of food, he chuckled. I had a long workout this morning. As she turned to put in his order, she noticed a group of teenagers at a nearby table pointing and whispering, their eyes fixed on the man in the hoodie. One boy was frantically texting on his phone. A commotion from table 7 interrupted her thoughts. Jared Phillips was standing up, his face red with anger. These eggs are cold, he announced loudly. And the toast is burnt. This is unacceptable. Mr. Walton materialized instantly, apologizing profusely. I'm so sorry, Mr. Phillips. We'll make you a fresh order right away. Phillips pointed at Zora. That waitress has been ignoring me. I've been trying to get her attention for 10 minutes. Zora's face burned. Sir, I checked on you just a few... She's been too busy with her other tables, Phillips interrupted. I want a different server. Mr. Walton shot Zora a look that made her feel 2 inches tall in front of the entire restaurant. Of course, Mr. Phillips. Tanya will take over your table. Again, my deepest apologies. The diner had gone quiet, with all eyes alternating between the scene with the food critic and Zora. She wanted to sink through the floor. With as much dignity as she could muster, Zora returned to the corner booth with the man's coffee. Her hands trembled slightly as she set down the mug. You okay? He asked quietly. His kindness, after such public humiliation, brought sudden tears to her eyes. Zora blinked them away quickly. I'm fine. Your food will be up in a few minutes. Don't worry about that critic, he said. Some people just like to feel important by making others feel small. Zora looked at him more closely, struck by the warmth in his voice. Thanks. It's just been one of those days, you know? He nodded. We all have them, but tomorrow's a new day. When his food arrived, he ate quickly but neatly. As he was finishing, he asked, Can I get another omelet and pancakes to go? And a side of hash browns? Sure thing, Zora said, impressed by his appetite. When she brought his check, he handed her a credit card without looking at the total. As she processed the payment, she glimpsed the name, Stephen C. Strange coincidence, she thought. He added a tip and signed the receipt, then passed it back to her. Zora's eyes widened when she saw the amount. $100 on a $32 bill. "Sir, this is too much," she protested. "No, it's not," he said simply. "You earned it." As he stood to leave, a shaft of sunlight from the window hit his face, causing his sunglasses to slip slightly. In that moment, Zora caught a glimpse of his eyes and suddenly recognized the familiar face of NBA star Stephen Curry. Before she could say anything, he put a finger to his lips with a small smile, adjusted his sunglasses, and headed for the door. The teenagers who had been watching him scrambled for their phones, whispering excitedly. Zora stood frozen, the receipt still in her hand, when Mr. Walton's voice cut through her shock. "Jenkins, my office, now!" The walk to his office felt like a death march. Inside, Mr. Walton didn't offer her a seat. "That's it, Jenkins. You're done here." "What?" "But Mr. Walton, you neglected a food critic, to fawn over. Some celebrity customer." "I didn't even recognize him at first," Zora protested. "And I checked on Mr. Phillips regularly." "Save it," Mr. Walton interrupted. "I gave you a warning this morning. This is strike 3. Clean out your locker and turn in your apron." "Please," Zora said, desperation creeping into her voice. "I need this job. I have a daughter." "You should have thought of that before neglecting our customers. Your final check will be mailed to you." 10 minutes later, Zora stepped out of the Golden Spoon into the rain, which had started falling harder. Without her job, how would she pay next month's rent? How would she buy Lily's asthma medication? How would she afford her nursing school books? As the cold drops mingled with the warm tears on her cheeks, Zora clutched the $100 tip in her pocket, a small fortune that would help for now, but nowhere near enough for what lay ahead. Zora didn't bother with an umbrella as she walked home. Her uniform was getting soaked, the blue fabric darkening with rain. She glanced down at her name tag, still pinned to her shirt. "Zora, here to serve you with a smile." The words made her laugh, a harsh sound that caught in her throat. "Not anymore," she muttered, unpinning the badge and shoving it in her pocket, next to the $100 bill. The 5-block walk to her apartment building seemed longer than usual. Each step felt heavy, like her shoes were filled with cement instead of rainwater. Her mind raced with numbers. Rent due in 2 weeks, Lily's asthma prescription needing a refill, the electric bill with its red "Final Notice" stamp. The apartment building came into view, a faded brick structure with peeling window frames. It wasn't much, but it was home. Zora climbed the 3 flights of stairs, her wet shoes squeaking on the linoleum. Mrs. Patel from next door was waiting when Zora reached her floor. Lily sat at Mrs. Patel's kitchen table, visible through the open door, carefully gluing something to a poster board. "You're home early," Mrs. Patel said, her eyes curious. Zora forced a smile. "Yeah, slow day at the diner." The lie tasted bitter, but she couldn't face the truth yet, not with Lily right there. "Mom!" Lily looked up, her face lighting up. At 8 years old, she was all big brown eyes and untamed curls, with Zora's smile and her father's dimples. "I'm working on my science project. Come see." Zora stepped into Mrs. Patel's apartment, dripping on the welcome mat. "Let me see, baby." Lily proudly held up her poster. "It's about my hero." Zora expected to see a basketball player, or maybe the main character from Lily's favorite cartoon. Instead, she found herself looking at photos of herself. There was one of her in her nursing school scrubs, another of her helping Lily with homework, and a third of them together at the park, both laughing at the camera. Above the photos, in careful rainbow letters, Lily had written, "My hero, my mom." See? Lily pointed to a paragraph she'd written. "My mom is my hero because she works really hard and never gives up. She takes care of me and goes to school and has 2 jobs. She says dreams come true if you work for them. My dream is to be brave like her." Zora's eyes filled with fresh tears, but this time she couldn't blink them away. She pulled Lily into a tight hug, burying her face in her daughter's hair. "Do you like it?" Lily asked, her voice muffled against Zora's shoulder. "I love it," Zora whispered. "I love you so much, Lily Bug." Mrs. Patel touched Zora's shoulder gently. "Are you sure you're okay, dear? You seem upset." Zora shook her head slightly, her eyes signaling not in front of Lily. "We should get going. Thank you so much for watching her today." Back in their apartment, Zora helped Lily finish her project while she talked excitedly about her day at school. They ate macaroni and cheese for dinner. Not the healthiest, but Lily's favorite. And Zora read her 2 bedtime stories instead of the usual one. "You're the best mom ever," Lily murmured sleepily as Zora tucked the blanket around her. "And you're the best daughter ever," Zora replied, kissing her forehead. Once Lily was asleep, Zora sat at the kitchen table, their only light coming from a single bulb hanging overhead. She spread out the bills in front of her, the numbers blurring as she stared at them. Rent, $1,200 electric, $87.46. Water, $45.23. Internet, $59.99. Phone, $65.00. Nursing school payment, $380 Lily's after-school program. $200 of groceries. Approximately $300 Lily's asthma medication. $75 even with the $100 tip from Stephen Curry added to her savings. She was hundreds short. And that was before losing her diner job, which covered about half of these expenses. Zora picked up her phone and called Pete, her manager at the convenience store where she worked weekends. "Hey, Pete, it's Zora. I was wondering if I could pick up some extra shifts next week." There was a pause on the other end. I can maybe give you 1 more shift. Business has been slow lately." "I'll take whatever you can give me," Zora said, trying to keep the desperation out of her voice. After hanging up, she dialed her sister Maya, who lived in Atlanta with her 3 kids. "Hey, big sis," Maya answered on the 3rd ring, the sound of children playing in the background. "Hey," Zora said, her voice cracking. "What's wrong?" Maya asked immediately. "Is Lily okay?" "She's fine. Zora took a deep breath. "I lost my job at the diner today." "Oh no, Z. What happened?" Zora explained about being late, the food critic, and Stephen Curry's visit. "It all happened so fast. 1 minute I'm serving pancakes, the next I'm fired." "That's not fair. Can you fight it?" "It's a right-to-work state, Maya. He can fire me for any reason." "What about your nursing classes?" "I don't know. I can't drop out now. I'm more than halfway through." Zora's voice trembled. "But I don't see how I can keep paying for it." "I can send you some money," Maya offered. Zora knew her sister was struggling too, working as a teacher while raising 3 kids on her own. "No, that's not why I called. I needed to tell someone." "Listen to me, Z. You're the strongest person I know. You'll figure this out." Maya paused. "But if things get really bad, you and Lily always have a place with us. You know that, right?" "I know. Thanks, sis." After they hung up, Zora pulled out her laptop, a refurbished model she'd bought on sale for school, and began applying for waitressing jobs. Every application asked the same question. Reason for leaving last position? She hesitated, not wanting to badmouth Mr. Walton, but not wanting to lie either. She settled on position terminated due to scheduling conflicts and hoped for the best. It was past midnight when she finally closed the laptop. As she got ready for bed, she noticed Lily's inhaler on the bathroom counter. She picked it up and shook it, almost empty. The refill would cost $75, money she didn't have to spare. Sitting on the edge of her bed, Zora put her head in her hands. For the first time, she seriously considered dropping out of nursing school. The thought made her stomach twist. She'd worked so hard, sacrificed so much. But what choice did she have? Just until we get back on our feet, she whispered to herself. Just temporarily. As she crawled under the covers, exhaustion finally overcoming her, Zora thought about what she'd told Lily countless times. Dreams come true if you work for them. But what if working wasn't enough? What if, no matter how hard you tried, the world was determined to push you down? With that thought circling in her mind, Zora fell into a troubled sleep, unaware that tomorrow would bring a shock that would change everything. "Mom! Mom! Wake up!" Zora blinked awake to find Lily shaking her shoulder, practically bouncing with excitement. Sunlight streamed through the thin curtains. Zora squinted at the clock, 7:15 a.m. She'd overslept. "Lily, we need to hurry, or you'll be late for—" "Mom, you're on TV. Come look." Lily tugged at her arm. "Hurry!" "What?" Zora mumbled, confused. She stumbled out of bed, following her daughter to their small living room. The local morning news was playing on their second-hand TV. On screen was footage of the Golden Spoon Diner, and a reporter with perfect hair stood outside, microphone in hand, where NBA superstar Stephen Curry caused quite a stir yesterday when he stopped in for breakfast. Diners were shocked to see the basketball legend eating at this small local establishment. The camera cut to one of the teenagers Zora had seen whispering and pointing. The boy grinned at the camera, practically vibrating with excitement. Yeah, it was definitely Stephen Curry. He was super nice to this waitress who was getting yelled at by her boss. He left her a huge tip. The screen showed a grainy cell phone video. There was Zora, serving the corner booth where Curry sat in his hoodie and sunglasses. "That's you, Mom," Lily pointed. "You're famous." Zora sank onto the couch, stunned. The reporter continued. "Curry himself hasn't commented on his surprise visit, but social media is buzzing about why he chose this particular diner during his time in town." As if on cue, Zora's phone began ringing. It was Tanya from the diner. "Girl, have you seen the news?" Tanya's voice was high with excitement. "You're famous, and Mr. Walton is freaking out because people on social media are saying he fired you for serving Stephen Curry." "What? How do they know I got fired?" That teenager who was filming, he posted it all online, said he overheard everything. The video's gone viral. Mr. Walton's getting slammed in the comments. Zora's other line beeped. "Tanya, I've got another call. I'll talk to you later." She switched over. It was Miguel, the cook from the diner. "Zora, the diner's packed with people hoping Curry will come back, and reporters are asking about you." More calls came in, from other co-workers, from her nursing school classmate Julie, even from Mrs. Patel next door. Overwhelmed, Zora turned off her phone. "Mom, are you in trouble?" Lily asked, her earlier excitement fading to concern. Zora forced a smile. "No, baby, it's just grown-up stuff. Let's get you ready for school." "But it's Saturday," Lily pointed out. "Right, of course." Zora rubbed her temples. "Well, lucky us. We have the whole day together." While making Lily breakfast, Zora tried to process what was happening. Her private humiliation had somehow become public news. She wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. "Can we go to the park?" Lily asked, munching her cereal. "Actually, I need to look for a new job today," Zora said. "How about we go to the library? You can pick out some books while I use the computers." At the public library, Zora settled Lily in the children's section with a stack of books, then headed to the computer area. She checked her email. There were messages from 3 local news stations requesting interviews. She ignored them. Instead, she focused on job applications, filling out form after form for waitressing positions at every restaurant in a 10-mile radius. Each one asked the same questions, and her fingers grew tired of typing the same answers. After 2 hours, Lily appeared at her side. "Mom, I'm hungry." Zora checked the time, almost noon. "Let's go home for lunch." They were walking back, Lily skipping ahead with her new library books, when a car pulled up beside them. Zora's heart sank as she recognized Mr. Walton's silver sedan. He rolled down the window, his face tight with what might have been embarrassment. "Jenkins, can I talk to you for a minute?" "Lily, wait by that bench," Zora said, pointing to a spot a few yards away, but still in clear view. Lily nodded and ran to the bench, opening one of her books immediately. Zora turned to Mr. Walton. "What do you want?" Look, things got a little heated yesterday." He cleared his throat. "The diner's been swamped since that basketball player's visit. We're short-staffed. And," Zora crossed her arms, "I'd like you to come back with a 50-cent raise." The offer was tempting. The stability would help her and Lily, and the raise would mean an extra $20 a week. But Zora remembered the humiliation, the way he'd fired her in front of everyone after years of loyal service. "Mr. Walton, I appreciate the offer, but I don't think it would work out." His face reddened. "Because of one bad day? Everyone makes mistakes, Jenkins." "Yes, they do. Good luck finding a replacement." Zora walked away, head high, though her stomach twisted with anxiety. Had she just made a terrible decision? Lily looked up as she approached. Who was that man? "Just someone I used to work with," Zora said. "Come on, race you home." Their apartment building came into view, and Zora noticed something on their doorstep, a small package. She approached cautiously. There was no return address, just her name printed on a plain white label. Inside the apartment, Zora set Lily up with a peanut butter sandwich and apple slices, then examined the package. It wasn't heavy, about the size of a shoebox. Carefully, she opened it. Inside was a brand new smartphone, the latest model, still in its original packaging. A small note card sat on top. "You might need this. Battery fully charged." "What is it, Mom?" Lily asked, peering over her shoulder. "It's a new phone." Zora turned the box over, looking for any clue about who sent it. "But I don't know who it's from." Curiously, she took the phone out and turned it on. The setup had already been completed, and there was just one contact saved in the address book, labeled simply, "Call me." Zora stared at the screen, a strange feeling washing over her. Who would send her a brand new phone? And why? She put the phone down on the kitchen counter, trying to focus on making her own lunch, but her eyes kept drifting back to it. The single contact seemed to glow on the screen, an invitation and a mystery all at once. "Aren't you going to call?" Lily asked, finishing her sandwich. "I'm not sure," Zora replied honestly. "It could be a wrong delivery, or a prank, or it could be something amazing," Lily said with the simple optimism of childhood. "Like in my books, when the hero gets a magical message." Zora smiled. "Life isn't usually like storybooks, baby." But as she cleaned up the lunch dishes, Zora couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious phone and its single contact. Who wanted her to call? And what would happen if she did? The afternoon crawled by. Zora helped Lily with her science project, did a load of laundry, and even organized the hall closet. Anything to keep her mind off the phone sitting on the kitchen counter, but her eyes kept drifting back to it. "Mom, just call already," Lily said, exasperated after catching Zora staring at the phone for the 5th time. "You're being silly." "What if it's a prank?" Zora asked. "Or someone trying to sell something?" Lily put her hands on her hips, looking far older than her 8 years. "Then you say, 'No thank you,' and hang up. Easy peasy." Zora couldn't help but smile. "When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart," Lily replied with a grin. "I got it from my mom." After dinner, with Lily settled in front of the TV watching her favorite cartoon, Zora finally picked up the mysterious phone. Her finger hovered over the single contact. What if it was a reporter trying to get a story? Or worse, what if someone was playing a cruel joke? But curiosity won out. Taking a deep breath, she pressed call and held the phone to her ear. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. "Hello, Zora. Thanks for calling." The voice was female, warm and professional, with a hint of an accent Zora couldn't place, and somehow familiar. "Who is this?" Zora asked, her heart pounding. "My name is Aisha Curry. My husband told me about you." Zora nearly dropped the phone. Aisha Curry, Stephen Curry's wife, was calling her. She sank onto a kitchen chair. "How did you get my address?" was all Zora could think to say. Aisha laughed lightly. "I'm sorry about that. I hope the phone delivery wasn't too mysterious. Stephen gave me your name. And honestly, it wasn't hard to find you after the news coverage." "The news coverage," Zora repeated faintly. "Right. Stephen told me what happened at the diner," Aisha continued. "He feels terrible that his visit may have contributed to you losing your job." "It wasn't his fault," Zora said automatically. "Mr. Walton was looking for a reason. Still, we'd like to talk to you." Aisha's voice was warm but businesslike. "Are you free for coffee tomorrow?" "Coffee? With you and Stephen Curry?" Zora couldn't quite believe the words coming out of her mouth. "Yes, we'll be in town until tomorrow evening. There's a coffee shop called Bean There, Done That on Main Street. Could you meet us there at 10 a.m.? Zora's mind raced. Mrs. Patel could watch Lily. Or maybe Lily could go to her friend, Emma's house. "Yes, I can make that work." "Wonderful. We'll have a private room in the back. Just tell them you're meeting the Currys." There was a pause. "And Zora? We're not looking to make a big deal out of this. No press, no cameras, just a conversation." After they hung up, Zora sat staring at the phone for a long moment. Had that really just happened? She pinched herself, a childish gesture, but she needed to be sure she wasn't dreaming. "Mom?" Lily called from the living room. "Who was it?" Zora walked to the doorway, still dazed. "It was Aisha Curry." Lily's eyes went round as saucers. "The Aisha Curry? The one married to the basketball player? The one who's on cooking shows?" "You know who she is?" Zora was surprised. "Duh, Mom. Emma has all her cookbooks. Her mom makes her recipes all the time." Lily bounced on the sofa. "What did she want? Does she need a waitress? Are you going to be on TV?" "Slow down," Zora laughed. "She just wants to meet for coffee tomorrow. To talk." "Talk about what?" Lily pressed. "I don't know, baby. I guess I'll find out." After putting Lily to bed, Zora called her sister Maya, who screamed so loudly that Zora had to hold the phone away from her ear. The Currys? Girl, your life is about to change. Don't be dramatic, Zora said, though her own stomach was fluttering with nervous excitement. They probably just feel bad about what happened and want to clear their conscience. Or, Maya said, they want to offer you an amazing job, or introduce you to someone important, or give you $1 million. Now you're being ridiculous, Zora said, but she was smiling. Seriously, though, Maya's voice softened. This could be a good thing, Z. Just be open to it. That night, Zora lay awake for hours, alternating between excitement and anxiety. She didn't want charity or 15 minutes of fame. She just wanted stability for herself and Lily. Still, she couldn't help but feel a tiny spark of hope that this strange turn of events might lead to something positive. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Zora wondered what tomorrow would bring. Whatever the Currys wanted to discuss, one thing was certain. Her life was taking an unexpected turn. Morning came too quickly. Zora woke before her alarm, her stomach fluttering with nerves. She stood before her closet, suddenly aware of how few nice outfits she owned. After trying on and rejecting 3 different combinations, she settled on her interview clothes: simple black pants and a blue button-up blouse that brought out the warm undertones in her brown skin. "You look pretty, Mom," Lily said, watching from the doorway as Zora applied a light touch of makeup. "Thanks, baby. Remember, you're going to Emma's house today. Her mom will pick you up in 20 minutes, so make sure you have everything you need for the science project." Lily nodded, then asked the question Zora had been dreading. "Are you going to tell the Currys about me?" Zora turned from the mirror. "Of course I will. Why wouldn't I?" Lily shrugged, suddenly interested in the carpet. "I don't know. Some of the moms at school hide their kids when they're looking for jobs. They say bosses don't like hiring moms." A pang shot through Zora's heart. At 8 years old, Lily was already aware of such unfair realities. She knelt down and took her daughter's hands. "Listen to me. You are the best thing in my life. I will never, ever hide you or be ashamed of being your mom. Understand?" Lily nodded, a small smile returning. "Can you ask Stephen Curry for his autograph?" "For me?" Zora laughed, standing up. "We'll see. This isn't a fan meeting, Lily. Actually, I'm not sure what it is." After dropping Lily off with Emma's mother, who raised her eyebrows when Zora mentioned her meeting but didn't pry, Zora caught the bus downtown. Been there, done. That was an upscale coffee shop in the nicer part of town, with fancy pastries and drinks, with names Zora couldn't pronounce. As she approached the entrance, 2 men in plain clothes, but with the unmistakable alertness of security, personnel stepped forward. "Ms. Jenkins?" one asked quietly. Surprised that they knew her name, Zora nodded. "This way, please." They escorted her past the counter, where curious customers watched, and through a door marked "Private." The small room beyond held a round table with comfortable chairs, soft lighting, and tasteful artwork on the walls. And there, dressed in casual jeans and sweaters like any ordinary couple, sat Stephen and Aisha Curry. They both stood as she entered. Aisha stepped forward first, hand extended. "Zora, thank you so much for coming. I'm Aisha, and this is Stephen." Zora shook her hand, then Stephen's, acutely aware of how surreal this moment was. "Thank you for inviting me." "Please, sit," Stephen said, gesturing to a chair. His voice was just as warm in person as it had been in the diner. "Can we get you something to drink? Coffee? Tea?" "Coffee would be great," Zora managed, taking a seat. "Black, please." Stephen signaled to someone at the door, and a server appeared with a tray already holding a carafe of coffee and 3 cups, along with a plate of pastries. Clearly, they had prepared for her arrival. As the server poured, an awkward silence fell. Zora took a sip of her coffee, unsure of what to say. Stephen broke the tension. "First, I want to apologize for what happened at the diner. I never meant for my visit to cause problems for you." "It wasn't your fault," Zora assured him, finding her voice. "I was on thin ice with Mr. Walton already. Too many tardiest because of childcare issues." "You have a child?" Aisha asked, her expression warming. Remembering her promise to Lily, Zora straightened. "Yes, my daughter Lily. She's 8. We have 3, Aisha smiled. 2 girls and a boy. They keep us busy." "Even with all the help you must have," Zora said, then immediately wished she could take back the words. They sounded petty, almost accusing, but Aisha just nodded. "We're blessed to have help, that's true. But every parent struggles, just in different ways. Stephen told me you're raising Lily alone?" "Yes. Her father isn't in the picture." Zora kept her tone neutral, not wanting to dive into that complicated history. Stephen leaned forward. "Aisha also mentioned you're in school?" "Nursing school," Zora nodded. "Online classes plus clinical rotations. I'm halfway through the program." "That's impressive," Aisha said, and her admiration seemed genuine. "Working 2 jobs, raising a daughter, and studying nursing? You're superwoman." Zora laughed softly. "I don't feel like superwoman most days, especially not right now." "That's understandable," Stephen said. "Losing a job is tough, even when it's not your fault." The conversation flowed more easily after that. They asked about Lily, her hobbies, her school, her personality. Zora found herself relaxing as she talked about her daughter's love of science and books, her struggle with asthma, and her endless curiosity. When Aisha asked about her career goals, Zora explained her dream of becoming a pediatric nurse. When Lily was 4, she had a severe asthma attack. We spent 3 days in the children's hospital. The nurses there were amazing, so kind, so skilled. They didn't just care for Lily, they cared for me too. I want to be that person for other frightened parents and children. Stephen and Aisha exchanged glances. Then Aisha leaned forward. "Zora, we have a proposition for you." Zora tensed, her hand tightening around her coffee cup. Here it came. The offer of money. The charitable gesture from wealthy celebrities to the struggling single mom. She braced herself, already planning how to politely decline, but Aisha's next words surprised her. "I'm opening a new restaurant here next month. It's called Home Court. A play on basketball, obviously, but also about making everyone feel welcome. We need a manager who understands both customer service and the challenges staff face. Would you be interested?" Zora blinked, trying to process what she'd just heard. "A manager? Of your restaurant?" "Yes." Aisha's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Someone who can supervise the floor staff, handle customer concerns, and help create a positive work environment." "But I've never managed a restaurant before," Zora pointed out. "I'm just a waitress." "You have 5 years of experience in food service," Stephen countered. "You know what makes a good server and what makes a difficult customer. Plus, you're studying to be a nurse. That shows you're intelligent and dedicated to helping others. We can teach you the management aspects," Aisha added. "What we can't teach is empathy, work ethic, and grace under pressure. You showed all 3 at the diner, even when things were difficult." They proceeded to outline the position. Competitive, salary, health insurance that would cover Lily's asthma medications, and flexible hours that would accommodate Zora's nursing school schedule. It sounded too good to be true. "Why me?" Zora asked finally, voicing the question that had been nagging at her. "Because of the news story? Because it makes for good publicity?" Stephen shook his head. "We're not even planning to publicize this. This isn't about publicity. It's about character," Aisha said simply. "You showed kindness when you were already having a hard day. That's the kind of person we want representing our business." Zora sat back, overwhelmed. "Can I think about it? This is a lot to take in." "Of course." Aisha handed her a business card. "Take all the time you need. My private number is on the back." As Zora prepared to leave, Stephen cleared his throat. "One more thing. My niece is about your daughter's age, and she mentioned that the Warriors are playing here tomorrow night. Would you and Lily like to come? VIP seats, of course." "That would be amazing. Lily would be thrilled." Zora hesitated. "But I don't want to take advantage of your kindness." "It's not taking advantage," Aisha assured her. "Besides, you can see the game and let us know about the job after. No pressure either way." As they said goodbye, Aisha handed Zora an envelope. "Regardless of your decision about the job, we wanted you to have this." On the bus ride home, Zora opened the envelope to find tickets to the next Warriors game with a note. "For you and Lily, VIP treatment. S&A Curry." Zora stared at the tickets, her mind racing. Had this meeting really happened? Was she really considering managing a restaurant owned by Aisha Curry? And how would this affect her nursing school dreams? As the bus rolled through neighborhoods growing gradually less affluent, Zora realized she had a life-changing decision to make. One that would affect not just her future, but Lily's as well. When she arrived at Emma's house to pick up Lily, her daughter took one look at her face and asked, "Did something good happen?" "Maybe," Zora said, smiling. "And look what I have." She pulled out the basketball tickets. Lily's eyes grew round. "Warriors tickets? For real?" She bounced on her toes, barely containing her excitement. "We're going to see Stephen Curry play?" "Tomorrow night," Zora confirmed. "And there's something else. Mrs. Curry offered me a job." "As a waitress at her restaurant?" Lily asked as they walked home. "No, as a manager." Lily stopped walking. "A manager? Like the boss?" "Kind of," Zora laughed. "I'd be in charge of the servers and making sure customers are happy." "That sounds important," Lily said, impressed. "Are you going to take it?" It was the question Zora had been asking herself all the way home. "I don't know yet, baby. It's complicated." That evening, after Lily went to bed, Zora called Maya for advice. "A restaurant manager?" Maya whistled. "That's a big step up from waitressing, sis. What's the pay like?" "Almost double what I was making at the diner, plus benefits. Lily's inhaler would be covered." "So what's the problem?" "It sounds perfect." Zora sighed, twisting the phone cord around her finger. "My nursing classes. Being a manager is going to be high pressure, lots of hours. I'd have to cut back on classes, take longer to graduate. But you'd still finish eventually, right? And meanwhile, you and Lily would have stability." "Yes, but..." Zora struggled to put her feelings into words. "I've been working toward being a nurse for so long. It's my dream." "Dreams can change," Maya said gently. "Or maybe just the timeline." After they hung up, Zora spread her nursing textbooks across the kitchen table. She ran her fingers over the pages she'd highlighted and dog-eared. The human body, medicine dosages, patient care procedures, she'd worked so hard to learn it all. She opened her laptop to check her student account. There was an email from her nursing school advisor. "Congratulations. Based on your excellent academic performance, you've been awarded the Henderson Scholarship for next semester. This will cover 40% of your tuition. Zora stared at the screen, her heart pounding. It was a sign, wasn't it? The universe telling her to stick with nursing? Just then, her phone rang. It was Pete from the convenience store. Hey Zora, about those extra shifts. I can only give you Sundays, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Business is really slow right now. I understand, Zora said, trying to hide her disappointment. Thanks for trying. After hanging up, she noticed a voicemail on her old phone. 3 different diners had called offering her waitressing positions. Word had apparently spread about her firing. But none of the offers came close to the salary Aisha had mentioned. Zora made a pros and cons list for each option. Continue pursuing nursing full-time with part-time waitressing, or accept the restaurant manager position and take nursing classes more slowly. Option 1. Pursue nursing full-time. Pros. Finish degree sooner. Follow original dream. Use new scholarship. Cons. Financial struggle continues. Less time with Lily. Stress of juggling multiple jobs. Option 2. Restaurant manager. Pros. Financial stability. Health insurance. Flexible hours. Prestigious position. Cons. Delay nursing degree. Learning curve for management. Unknown work environment. She stared at the lists, unable to decide. Both paths had merits. Both had drawbacks. The next morning, she took Lily to the park, hoping the fresh air would clear her head. As Lily played on the swings, Zora watched her daughter's face light up with each arc toward the sky. "Higher, Mom! Push me higher!" Lily called. Zora obliged, giving her a gentle push. "Lily, what would you think if Mommy changed jobs? If I worked at a fancy restaurant instead of a diner?" Lily considered this as she swung back and forth. "Would you be happier?" The question caught Zora off guard. "I might make more money," she said carefully, "but it would be more responsibility." "Would you still become a nurse someday?" "Yes, but it might take longer." Lily dragged her feet to slow the swing and looked at her mother seriously. "You always tell me to follow my dreams," she said. "What's your dream, Mom?" The question hit Zora hard. She'd been so focused on what each option meant financially and practically that she'd lost sight of the bigger picture. "My dream," she said, slowly, "is to help people, to make a difference." She knelt in front of Lily. "And to give you the best life possible." "You already do that," Lily said simply, wrapping her arms around Zora's neck. As they walked home, Zora realized something important. Her goal had never been just about becoming a nurse. It was about building a better life, helping others, and making her daughter proud. Maybe there was more than one path to achieve that. That night, as they prepared for the basketball game, Zora looked at herself in the mirror. Tomorrow, she would give Aisha her answer. But tonight, she and Lily would enjoy something special together, a rare treat in their often challenging life. "Ready for some basketball?" she called to Lily. "Ready!" Lily appeared in her doorway, wearing her school's Warriors t-shirt and a huge grin. "This is going to be the best night ever." Looking at her daughter's excitement, Zora smiled. Whatever decision she made tomorrow, tonight was for making memories. The arena was packed with fans in blue and gold, the energy electric. Zora and Lily followed the usher down to their seats, which were closer to the court than Zora had ever imagined possible. Lily clutched her mother's hand, eyes wide as she took in the massive scoreboard, the bright lights, and the players warming up on the court. "Mom, look! There he is!" Lily pointed. as Stephen Curry dribbled across the court, sinking shot after shot from impossible distances. "I see him, baby," Zora said, amazed herself at how different he looked in his element. Confident, focused, almost glowing with energy. So, unlike the quiet man in the hoodie at the diner, their VIP passes got them more than just great seats. A staff member approached them as soon as they were settled. "Ms. Jenkins, Mrs. Curry asked me to escort you to the family section at halftime. Will that be all right?" "Yes, of course," Zora said, surprised. She'd assumed the tickets were the extent of the Currys' generosity. Lily tugged on her sleeve. "We're going to meet Mrs. Curry again? Can I talk to her this time?" "We'll see, Lily. Remember your manners if we do." The first half of the game was thrilling, even to Zora, who didn't follow basketball closely. Stephen Curry moved like water, finding impossible angles for his shots. Lily cheered herself hoarse every time he scored, which was often. At halftime, the staff member returned to escort them to a private section where players' families watched the game. Several women turned to look as they entered, curiosity in their eyes. Aisha Curry stood and waved them over, elegant in jeans and a Warriors jacket. "Zora! And you must be Lily. I'm so glad you both could come." Lily, suddenly shy, pressed against Zora's side. "Thank you for inviting us, Mrs. Curry. Please, call me Aisha. Are you enjoying the game?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Stephen is amazing. Did you see that shot he made right before halftime? It was from so far away." "I did," Aisha laughed. "He practices those every day." As Lily chatted with Aisha, growing more comfortable by the minute, Zora marveled at how natural the famous woman was with her daughter. Aisha introduced them to several other players' wives and girlfriends, who welcomed them warmly. "Lily, would you like to meet some of the other children?" one of the women asked. "My daughter Zoe is about your age. She's over by the snack table." With a questioning look at her mother, Lily waited for permission. Zora nodded, and Lily skipped off to make new friends. Once Lily was out of earshot, Aisha turned to Zora with a more serious expression. "Have you had a chance to think about our offer?" Zora took a deep breath. The moment of decision had arrived. "I have. I'm very grateful. But I need to be honest with you. Being a nurse has been my dream for so long. I've already completed half the program. I can't give it up now when I'm this close." Instead of looking disappointed, Aisha smiled. "I thought you might say that. Actually, I'd have been surprised if you didn't. Your dedication is exactly why we want to work with you. I don't understand. How about a compromise?" Aisha leaned forward. "We need part-time floor supervisors too. Weekend shifts, fewer hours, but still good pay and benefits. You'd supervise the waitstaff, handle customer concerns, and help train new employees. Would that work with your school schedule?" Zora was stunned. She'd been prepared for an all-or-nothing scenario. "You'd adjust the position for me?" "The restaurant industry is all about flexibility," Aisha said, "and we really want you on the team. Your experience as a waitress, combined with your medical training, gives you a unique perspective." "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Aisha smiled. "Try it for 3 months. If it doesn't work with your studies, no hard feelings." The offer was too good to refuse. "Yes," Zora said, a weight lifting from her shoulders. "I'd love to try." They spent the next few minutes discussing logistics, when the restaurant would open, training dates, uniform details. Zora would work Friday nights, Saturdays, and Sunday afternoons, leaving her weekdays free for classes and clinical rotations. "One more thing," Aisha added. "The restaurants in our group have a tuition assistance program for employees pursuing higher education. You'd qualify after your first 3 months. Zora blinked back sudden tears. You've thought of everything. Not everything, Aisha laughed. Running a restaurant is chaos, but we try to take care of our people. By the time Lily returned, cheeks flushed with excitement from making new friends, the details were settled. Zora would start training the dough. Following week, the second half of the game was even more exciting than the first. The Warriors won by 12 points, with Stephen Curry scoring the final three-pointer that sealed the victory. The crowd erupted in cheers, the noise deafening. As they prepared to leave, a security guard approached them. "Miss Jenkins, Mr. Curry would like you and your daughter to come meet the team, if that's all right." Lily's eyes nearly popped out of her head. The team? All of them? The guard led them through a series of hallways to a private area where the players were gathered. Stephen Curry, still in his uniform and glistening with sweat from the game, broke into a smile when he saw them. "Zora, Lily, glad you could come down. Did you enjoy the game?" "It was awesome," Lily gushed, her earlier shyness completely gone. "You were amazing! Those three-pointers were so cool," Stephen laughed. "Thanks, I've been practicing." He turned to introduce several teammates who were nearby. Lily was speechless as she shook hands with professional basketball players she'd only seen on TV. One player knelt to Lily's level. "Would you like us to sign your program?" Lily nodded so hard Zora thought her head might fall off. Soon, her game program was covered with signatures from the entire team. Stephen added a personal note. "To Lily, dream big, Stephen Curry." They were leaving. Stephen took Zora aside while Aisha showed Lily some photos of their children on her phone. "Aisha told me about the part-time arrangement," he said. "I'm glad you're giving it a shot." "Thank you for the opportunity," Zora replied. "It means more than I can say." "Everyone deserves a second chance," Stephen said simply. "Sometimes life takes an unexpected turn, but it leads somewhere better." On the bus ride home, Lily clutched her signed program, too excited to sleep despite the late hour. "Mom, this was the best night ever. Did you see how tall they all were? And they were so nice to me." Zora smiled, her own heart full. For the first time in years, she felt like things might work out. The part-time supervisor position would provide the stability they needed while still allowing her to pursue her nursing degree. It wasn't the path she'd planned, but maybe it was the path she needed. "Mom." Lily's voice was softer now, sleepy. "Are you happy?" Zora put her arm around her daughter's shoulders, pulling her close. "Yes, baby. I'm very happy." And she was. For the first time in a long time, Zora Jenkins looked toward the future with hope instead of fear. 2 weeks later, Zora stood outside. Home Court, Aisha Curry's newest restaurant. The building had once been an old warehouse, now transformed with warm lighting, exposed brick walls, and large windows. A sleek sign featured the restaurant's name in elegant gold letters, with a subtle basketball design incorporated into the logo. Zora smoothed her new uniform, black pants, and a crisp white button-up shirt with the Home Court logo embroidered on the pocket, and took a deep breath. Today was her first day of training as a floor supervisor. "You've got this," she whispered to herself, then pushed open the door. Inside, about 20 other employees were gathered for the pre-opening training session. Some were in server uniforms. Like hers, others in chef's whites or host attire. Most looked as nervous as she felt. A tall woman with short gray hair and kind eyes approached her. "You must be Zora. I'm Diane Porter, the general manager." They shook hands. "Aisha has told me a lot about you." "All good things, I hope," Zora said with a nervous laugh. Absolutely. She says you have excellent instincts for customer service. Diane led her toward the group. Let me introduce you to the team. The staff was remarkably diverse. People of all ages, races, and backgrounds. There was Marcus, a college student with an easy smile. Elaine, a grandmother who had waited tables. For 30 years, Joaquin, a former bartender with elaborate tattoos covering his arms, and many others whose names Zora tried to memorize. The training was intensive, but engaging. They learned about the farm-to-table menu featuring Aisha's signature dishes, practiced using the computerized ordering system, and role-played different customer service scenarios. Zora paid close attention, taking notes and asking questions. During a break, Joaquin slid into the chair next to her. So, you're the one who served Steph Curry and got fired for it? Zora tensed. You know about that? Everyone does. It was all over social media. Seeing her discomfort, he added quickly, Hey, no judgment. That diner owner sounds like a jerk. Besides, look where it got you. I'm not here because of that, Zora said firmly. I'm here because I've been waitressing for 5 years and I'm good at it. Joaquin held up his hands. No offense meant. And for what it's worth, I can already tell you know your stuff. Some of these newbies don't know a ramekin from a rampage. That made Zora laugh, breaking the tension. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if people knew her story. It wasn't something to be ashamed of. Over the next week, Zora immersed herself in learning every aspect of the restaurant. She memorized the menu, mastered the reservation system, and studied the wine list. She was determined to prove that Aisha's faith in her was justified. The restaurant's soft opening was scheduled for Friday night. Friends, family, and local VIPs would be the first to experience home court before the official public opening the following week. As a supervisor, Zora would oversee 6 servers in her section. Friday morning, she dropped Lily at school with an extra tight hug. Wish me luck, baby. Big night tonight. You don't need luck, Lily said confidently. You're going to be awesome. That evening, Zora arrived early to help with final preparations. The restaurant looked stunning. Tables set with fine linens and gleaming silverware, the bar stocked with top-shelf liquors, and the kitchen humming with activity as the chefs prepared. For service, Aisha arrived an hour before opening, elegant in a designer dress. She gathered the staff for a pep talk. Remember, everyone who walks through that door is a guest in our home. Treat them that way, and everything else will fall into place. When the doors opened at 6, Zora felt a familiar flutter of nerves, but it quickly gave way to focused professionalism. She guided her team efficiently, stepping in when needed, and offering quiet encouragement when one of the newer servers became flustered. The evening progressed smoothly. The food was a hit, with Aisha's signature jerk chicken and coconut curry receiving particular praise. Zora moved through her section with confidence, making sure each table received personal attention. Around 8:30, she was checking on a family's meal when she noticed a familiar face at a table in the corner. Her stomach dropped. It was Mr. Walton, her former boss from the Golden Spoon, dining with what appeared to be business associates. He recognized her too, his eyes widening in surprise. For a moment, Zora considered asking another supervisor to handle his table, but instead, she straightened her shoulders and approached them professionally. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Zora, one of the floor supervisors. Is everything to your satisfaction tonight? Mr. Walton looked uncomfortable, his cheeks flushing slightly. Everything is excellent, thank you. Zora ensured that his party received impeccable service throughout their meal. When they prepared to leave, Mr. Walton hung back, waiting until his companions stepped outside. Jenkins. Zora, he said awkwardly. I owe you an apology. I shouldn't have fired you the way I did. Zora hadn't expected this. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Walton. You've landed on your feet, I see. He gestured around the restaurant. Supervisor already. You always were a hard worker. I appreciate that. Zora kept her tone professional but warm. There was no point in holding on to bitterness. As he left, Zora felt a sense of closure. That chapter of her life was truly over. The weeks flew by. Home court became one of the hottest reservations in town, with waiting lists stretching weeks ahead. Zora settled into her role, finding a rhythm that allowed her to excel at work while keeping up with her nursing studies. Their financial situation improved dramatically. The health insurance covered Lily's asthma medications with just a small copay, and Zora's steady income meant no more juggling bills or deciding which necessity to sacrifice this month. They moved to a slightly better apartment, closer to both the restaurant and Lily's school. Nothing fancy, but clean and safe, with a small second bedroom that gave Lily her own space for the first time. Zora's nursing program director worked with her to arrange clinical rotations that didn't conflict with her weekend shifts at home court. It was still challenging juggling everything, but for the first time, it felt manageable. 1 month after the opening, Aisha featured Zora in the employee spotlight on the restaurant's social media. The post highlighted her work ethic and dedication to both her job and nursing school. Comments flooded in from people who remembered her story from the news, praising her perseverance. Zora's confidence grew as she mastered her role. She implemented a few suggestions that improved service flow, like a new system for drink orders that reduced wait times. Diane and Aisha took notice, often asking for her input on operational decisions. "You have good instincts for this business," Aisha told her one day, after Zora had successfully handled a particularly difficult customer situation. "Have you ever thought about restaurant management as a career?" "I'm committed to nursing," Zora replied. "But I'm learning a lot here that will help me there too. How to manage people, how to stay calm under pressure, how to prioritize when everything seems urgent." Aisha nodded approvingly. "That's what I like about you, Zora. You see connections where others see divisions. Healthcare and hospitality aren't so different at their core. Both are about caring for people." They developed a mentor-mentee relationship that benefited them both. Aisha offered business advice and networking opportunities, while Zora shared healthcare insights from her studies. When one of the cooks burned his hand, Zora's first aid training proved invaluable, earning her even more respect from the staff. 3 months into her new job, Zora sat at their kitchen table, helping Lily with homework while their dinner cooked. The apartment smelled of garlic and tomatoes. Spaghetti, Lily's favorite. "Mom, are you happier now?" Lily asked, looking up from her math worksheet. Zora considered the question. "I am. Are you?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "I like our new apartment, and I like that you don't look worried all the time anymore." "I didn't realize you noticed that," Zora said softly. "I notice everything about you, Mom. You're my hero, remember?" Zora hugged her daughter close, marveling at how perceptive children could be. She had been so focused on providing for Lily's physical needs that she sometimes forgot how attuned the girl was to her emotional state. That night, after Lily was asleep, Zora looked around their new home. It wasn't luxurious, but it was comfortable. There were no past due notices on the counter, no empty inhaler waiting for a refill they couldn't afford. Her nursing textbooks were neatly stacked beside her laptop, ready for tomorrow's study session. 6 months ago, being fired had seemed like the end of the world. Now she could see it for what it was, the first step on a new path. A path that had led to security, growth, and opportunities she never could have imagined. Zora still didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in years, she was excited to find out. 6 months passed in a blur of busy restaurant shifts and challenging nursing courses. Zora found her rhythm, working weekends at home court while attending classes and clinical rotations during the week. Her grades remained excellent, despite her busy schedule, and she'd even started a study group with 3 other nursing students who were also working parents. Lily thrived too. Her asthma was under control with regular medication, and she'd made new friends at school. She'd joined the science club and was currently obsessed with an experiment involving growing crystals, which had taken over their kitchen counter. One particularly busy Saturday night at home court, Zora was in her element. The restaurant was packed, with a 45-minute wait for tables. Celebrity sightings were common now, but Zora no longer got flustered serving famous faces. She supervised her section with calm efficiency, helping newer servers handle the volume. As the night wound down, Diane, the general manager, approached her. "Zora, Aisha would like you to stay after closing. She wants to talk to you." A flicker of worry passed through Zora. Had she done something wrong? "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," Diane assured her with a smile that suggested she knew more than she was saying. "Just finish up your section and meet in the private dining room around 11. The rest of the shift, Zora's mind raced with possibilities. Was Aisha unhappy with her performance? Was there a problem with her schedule? Or, Zora hardly dared hope, could it be a promotion? After the last customers left and the closing duties were complete, Zora headed to the private dining room at the back of the restaurant. It was a beautiful space, with a long mahogany table, usually reserved for special events or VIP guests. Aisha was waiting, still elegant after a long night overseeing the kitchen. "Zora, thank you for staying late. Please, sit down." Zora took a seat across from her, trying to read Aisha's expression. "Diane said you wanted to speak with me?" "Yes." Aisha's face gave nothing away. "How do you feel the job is going?" "Love it," Zora said honestly. "It's challenging, but in a good way. And the schedule works perfectly with my nursing program." "Your team respects you," Aisha noted. "I've heard nothing but positive feedback about your management style." "Thank you. That means a lot." Aisha studied her for a moment, then reached into her designer handbag. "This came for you." She handed Zora an envelope with her name typed on the front, but no return address. Zora stared at it, confusion replacing her nervousness. "For me? Here at the restaurant?" "It was delivered to my office, addressed to you." The envelope was made of heavy cream-colored paper, clearly expensive. Zora turned it over in her hands, unsure what to make of it. "Go ahead, open it," Aisha encouraged, a mysterious smile playing on her lips. With careful fingers, Zora broke the seal and pulled out a letter on thick, embossed stationery. The letterhead read, "Golden State Warriors Community Foundation." Her eyes scanned the text, confusion turning to shock as she read, "Dear Ms. Jenkins, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as the recipient of the Foundation's Healthcare Professionals Scholarship, which will cover all remaining tuition and expenses for your nursing program, including textbooks and supplies. Additionally, the Foundation is establishing a new program called Second Chance Scholarships for single parents pursuing healthcare careers, and we would be honored if you would serve on the advisory board. Please contact us at your earliest convenience to complete the necessary paperwork." Zora looked up, speechless. I don't understand. I never applied for this scholarship." "Read the last page," Aisha said quietly. Zora turned to the final page of the letter, which explained the funding source. This scholarship program has been endowed by an anonymous donor who specifically requested that you be the first recipient. The donor was impressed by your determination to continue your education while supporting your family, and wishes to ensure that financial constraints do not prevent you from achieving your goals. The Second Chance Scholarships Program will support 15 single parents annually in their pursuit of healthcare degrees, with preference given to those who have overcome significant obstacles. An anonymous donor? Zora looked up at Aisha. Who would do this for me? Aisha shook her head. It wasn't me or Stephen, if that's what you're thinking. Then who? Zora tried to think of anyone she knew with this kind of money or influence. Her mind went blank. Sometimes, Aisha said gently, you just have to accept that good things happen, even if you don't know why. Zora reread the letter, still stunned. A full scholarship. No more student loans. No more worrying about how to pay for textbooks or lab fees. This is... Her voice caught. This changes everything. Aisha reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You deserve it, Zora. You've worked so hard. On the bus ride home, Zora held the letter close to her chest, still barely believing it was real. Who could have done this? It had to be someone who knew her story, someone with connections to the Warriors Foundation. When she got home, the babysitter, Mrs. Patel's teenage daughter, reported that Lily was already asleep. Zora paid her, then quietly opened her daughter's bedroom door. Lily was curled up with her stuffed elephant, her face peaceful in sleep. Lily, Zora whispered, gently waking her. Baby, wake up for a minute. Lily's eyes fluttered open. Mom, is everything okay? Everything is wonderful, Zora said, sitting on the edge of the bed. She showed Lily the letter, explaining in simple terms what it meant. Lily sat up, suddenly wide awake. So, you can finish becoming a nurse? And we don't have to worry about money for your school anymore? That's right. Lily threw her arms around her mother's neck. See, Mom? I told you good things would happen. After Lily fell back asleep, Zora sat on her own bed, reading and rereading the letter. Her mind kept returning to the question, who was her mysterious benefactor? She made a mental list of everyone she'd met in the last 6 months, everyone who might know about her situation and have the resources to fund such a generous scholarship. The Currys had denied it was them. Could it be one of the regular customers at home court? A wealthy patron who had heard her story? That night, Zora could barely sleep, still wondering about her anonymous benefactor. Whoever it was had not only changed her life, but would be helping other single parents like her fulfill their dreams. As she finally drifted off, one thought remained. Someday, somehow, she would find a way to thank the person who had given her this incredible gift. 2 years passed. On a sunny May morning, Zora Jenkins sat in the university auditorium, dressed in a blue graduation gown and cap. The nursing pin on her lapel gleamed in the light streaming through the windows. Her hands rested on the printed program in her lap, her name listed among the graduates with honors. In the audience, Lily, now 10, sat between Maya, who had traveled from Atlanta for the ceremony, and Aisha Curry. Stephen sat next to his wife, occasionally signing autographs for star-struck fellow guests, but mostly just being present as a friend. Zora Jenkins, the dean called. Zora walked across the stage with steady steps, accepting her nursing degree with a brilliant smile. The journey had been long and challenging, but she had made it. As she moved the tassel on her cap from right to left, she heard Lily's voice above the applause. "That's my mom!" After the ceremony, they gathered outside for photos. Lily hugged her mother tightly, almost knocking her cap off. "You did it, Mom! You're a real nurse now." "I am," Zora said, her voice thick with emotion. "And I couldn't have done it without you, Lilybug." Maya wiped tears from her eyes. "Our parents would have been so proud, Z." "They would have been proud of both of us," Zora said, including her sister in a hug. Maya had recently completed her master's degree in education while raising 3 children on her own. Stephen and Aisha approached with congratulatory hugs. "We have a graduation present for you," Aisha said, handing Zora an envelope. Inside was a gift certificate for a weekend spa retreat. "You deserve some relaxation," Stephen explained. "Lily is welcome to come too, or she can have a sleepover. With our girls, if she prefers." "Thank you both," Zora said. "Not just for this, but for everything. I wouldn't be standing here today if it weren't for you." "That's not true," Aisha countered. "You would have found a way. That's who you are, Zora. We just made the path a little smoother." The graduation celebration continued at home court, where the staff had decorated a section of the restaurant with blue and white balloons and a banner reading, "Congratulations, Nurse Jenkins." Zora still worked there on weekends, though now as a senior floor manager overseeing all the supervisors. The Second Chance Scholarships program had grown too, now supporting 15 single parents pursuing healthcare degrees. Zora had become a spokesperson for the program, sharing her story at fundraising events and mentoring new recipients. A week after graduation, Zora started her new position at Children's Memorial Hospital, the very hospital where Lily had been treated for asthma years ago. She had applied for several nursing jobs, but this was the one she had hoped for most. On her first day, Zora arrived early, her new scrubs crisp and her ID badge clipped to her pocket. After orientation, she was introduced to her supervisor, a veteran nurse with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes. "Welcome to Pediatrics, Nurse Jenkins," she said, shaking Zora's hand. "I'm Elena Martinez. We're glad to have you on board." "Thank you. I'm excited to be here," Zora replied. There was something vaguely familiar about Nurse Martinez, but Zora couldn't place where she might have seen her before. During their coffee break, Nurse Martinez mentioned that her brother had recently retired from the restaurant business. "Oh, really? Which restaurant?" Zora asked conversationally. "The Golden Spoon. Do you know it?" Zora nearly choked on her coffee. "Your brother is Mr. Walton?" Nurse Martinez looked surprised. "Yes, Frank Walton is my brother. Do you know him?" "I used to work for him," Zora said carefully, not wanting to speak ill of her supervisor's brother. Nurse Martinez studied her face for a moment, then her eyes widened. "Wait a minute. Are you the waitress from the Stephen Curry incident? The one who went on to nursing school?" Zora nodded, uncomfortable with the recognition. "That was a long time ago." "Oh my goodness!" Nurse Martinez exclaimed. "You have no idea how much my brother regrets firing you. He talks about it all the time. His biggest mistake, he says." Zora was surprised, but tried to keep the conversation light. "Well, it worked out for the best. If he hadn't fired me, I might never have met the Currys or gotten the job at home court." Later that week, Zora received a meeting request from the hospital's executive director. Puzzled and a bit nervous, she arrived at the imposing office and was ushered in by a secretary. The director, Dr. Kimberly Chen, was a distinguished woman in her 60s with short silver hair and intelligent eyes behind stylish glasses. "Nurse Jenkins, please have a seat. I've heard impressive things about you from your instructors." "Thank you," Zora said, still uncertain why she'd been called to meet with someone so high up in the hospital hierarchy. "But that's not why I called you here," Dr. Chen continued. She slid a folder across the desk. Zora opened it to find a familiar letter. The scholarship notification from 2 years ago. "I believe congratulations are in order," Dr. Chen said with a smile. Zora looked up, confused. "I don't understand." The anonymous donor who established the Second Chance scholarships? That was Mr. Frank Walton. The words hit Zora like a physical blow. She sat back in her chair, stunned. "Mr. Walton? My former boss who fired me? That's impossible." Dr. Chen explained that after firing Zora and seeing the public backlash, Mr. Walton had done some soul-searching. He'd followed Zora's story through his sister, Nurse Martinez, learning about her nursing ambitions and her struggles as a single mom. Overcome with regret and admiration, he'd sold the diner and used much of the proceeds to establish the scholarship fund, insisting that Zora be the first recipient. "He never wanted you to know," Dr. Chen explained. "He felt he didn't deserve forgiveness or recognition. But now that you're colleagues with his sister, he agreed it was time for the truth to come out." Zora sat in stunned silence, processing this revelation. The man she'd thought was her worst enemy had become her greatest benefactor. The person who had brought her to her lowest moment had also provided the means for her greatest achievement. "I don't know what to say," she finally managed. "He's not asking for anything," Dr. Chen assured her. "He just wanted you to know the truth." That weekend, Zora visited Mr. Walton at his retirement home. The man who greeted her was thinner than she remembered, his once imposing presence diminished by age. Their conversation was awkward at first, but gradually warmed. "I want to thank you," Zora said. "The scholarship changed my life." Mr. Walton waved away her thanks, embarrassed. "It was the least I could do after how I treated you." "But why?" Zora asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "You could have just sent me an apology card." Mr. Walton looked down at his hands, veined and spotted with age. "When I saw you on the news, standing with the Currys, you talked about wanting to become a nurse to help kids like your daughter. It reminded me of my late wife. She was a nurse." He paused, emotion filling his voice. "Margaret always said I was too hard on people, too focused on rules instead of humanity. She'd say, 'Frank, these are people with lives and families, not just employees.'" Zora had never seen this softer side of her former boss. "After I fired you," he continued, "I realized she was right. I'd become the kind of person she would have been disappointed in. The scholarship was as much for her as it was for you." As Zora prepared to leave, Mr. Walton said, "Elena tells me you're an excellent nurse. Margaret would have liked that." The following month brought another graduation, Lily's elementary school ceremony. Zora sat proudly in the audience as her daughter received a special award for her science project. Afterward, they celebrated with ice cream. "Mom, can we go to home court for dinner?" Lily asked, chocolate smeared on her cheek. "Sure, baby. I'll text Aisha to see if they can join us." At the restaurant, they were shown to their usual table in the corner, the best in the house, always reserved for them when they visited. Stephen and Aisha arrived shortly after, and the four of them shared a meal filled with laughter and stories. "So what's this? I hear about a promotion already?" Stephen asked, passing Zora the bread basket. Zora smiled, still amazed at how her life had changed. "The pediatric unit needs a coordinator for their asthma education program. My supervisor recommended me." "That's wonderful," Aisha exclaimed. "Will it affect your hours here?" "I'll need to cut back to 1 day a week," Zora admitted. "Is that going to be a problem?" "Not at all. We're just happy you still want to work with us." Aisha squeezed her hand. "Your family now, Zora. Later that evening, as they walked home under a star-filled sky, Lily slipped her hand into her mother's. "Mom, are you happy we met Stephen Curry that day at the diner?" Zora thought about the question. So much had happened since that rainy morning when she'd served pancakes to a man in a hoodie and sunglasses. She'd lost a job, but found a career. She'd faced hardship, but discovered strength she never knew she had. And most surprisingly, she'd learned that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected sources. "I am," she said. "But you know what's funny? Meeting Stephen was just the beginning. The real story was everything that happened after. Like Mr. Walton turning out to be a good guy after all?" Exactly. Life is full of surprises, Lily. Sometimes what looks like the worst thing that could happen turns out to be the first step towards something better. As they reached their apartment building, a newer, safer one they'd moved to after Zora became a full-time nurse, Lily looked up thoughtfully. "So, getting fired was actually lucky?" "I wouldn't call it lucky," Zora laughed. "But it was a turning point. Sometimes you have to trust that when one door closes, another one opens." That night, as Zora prepared for bed, she thought about the strange journey that had brought her here, from being fired in front of a restaurant full of people to becoming a pediatric nurse, from seeing Stephen Curry as just another customer to having him cheer at her graduation, from despising Mr. Walton to understanding his redemption. She picked up a framed photo from her nightstand, a picture of herself in her graduation cap and gown, with Lily beaming beside her. Behind them stood Stephen and Aisha Curry, Maya, and, surprisingly, Mr. Walton in his wheelchair, a tentative smile on his face. It was a picture of second chances, of unexpected connections, of lives intertwined in ways no one could have predicted. At dinner, when Aisha had asked what she was thinking about, Zora had simply said, "How sometimes the end of one thing is really just the beginning of something better." Stephen had raised his glass in a toast to new beginnings, and Zora had smiled, thinking of how she'd once served Stephen Curry without recognizing him, how that moment had changed everything, and how the person she'd least expected had made her dreams possible. And, she had added quietly, to second chances. That was the end of our story. Where are you listening from today? If you enjoyed Zora and Lily's journey, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories like this one. Don't forget to share with your friends and family to spread kindness and awareness. Sometimes the most difficult moments in our lives can lead to unexpected blessings, just as they did for Zora. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week with another inspiring story.